our class on classical Japan. So in classical Japan, you have two different periods, Nara as well as Heian. Nara. Now, whenever you talk about Nara, you always remember about Nara Deer Park. That is the most famous tourist attraction in Japan. So Nara was the first permanent capital in Japan in central Honshu. You have to imagine something. Nara will try to reflect the highest civilization of that time, which is China, Tang Dynasty China. So Nara was built in the reflection of Chang'an of Tang Dynasty. Okay. Similarly, in Tang Dynasty, Buddhism was the most important. Buddhism was the most important religion in Tang Dynasty. So in Nara, Buddhism was also an important religion. Nara is considered the golden age of Buddhism in Japan. Nara is seen as a bridge between the establishment of the Japanese states with the fundamental characteristic of the Japanese society. During Nara, the golden age of Buddhism in Japan was achieved. Buddhism was very important because it became the religion of the elite and also the religion of the common people. Okay, during Nara, the worship of this female deity known as Kanon became very important. So Kanon is Avalokiteshvara, or in Chinese we know her as Guan Yin. Okay, so the golden age of Buddhism in Japan was during Nara. So as usual, Nara is a reflection of Chang'an in Tang Dynasty. So if Tang Dynasty is Buddhist, then Nara is also Buddhist. Okay. If you go to Nara today, you'll see two important this particular location known as the Todaiji Temple, Dongda, which means the Great Temple of the East. And inside the Great Temple of the East, you have the page just changed. Okay, inside the Great Temple of the East, Todaiji, you have the Zaibatsu. The Zaibatsu, or known as the Dai-Fo, which means the big Buddha. So in Nara, you have a whole new elite, whether from the top to the bottom. They became very engrossed with Buddhism. The next era of classical Japan is Heian. During Heian, there is a slight shift between the emperor and powerful families. In Heian, we can see the rise of the powerful Fujiwara family. In Heian, a new capital is built, which is known as Heian-kyo, or known as Kyoto. Again, the Heian period, just like Nara, copied that of China. So again, during Heian, they copied China. This is about, again, in the era of the Tang Dynasty, but towards the end of the Tang and the Song Dynasty, where they copied China and tried to reflect Japan as a mini China. So Buddhism was very important. Okay, Buddhist institutions were given leeway for tax exemptions. But one thing very important is during Heian, the rise of one single family, here in this sense, the Fujiwara family. The rise of the Fujiwara family led to the foundation of feudalism in Japan. So the Fujiwara family started off a new historical tradition that will have lasted until 1850s, where you have the balance of power between a powerful feudal family as well as the monarchy or the imperial family. So you have two different houses ruling Japan at the same time. Okay, Heian will still continue Japan's links with China, but towards the end it will go into isolation. Okay, now there is one thing about Heian is that during Heian there is also the rivalry and the start towards looking inwards towards Japan. So in Heian, for the first time, they started looking inside. Okay, Japan has always this problem about looking outside and looking inside. Okay, whenever it looks outside, it will adapt foreign culture, foreign religion. But when it looks inside, it will adapt and use local indigenous culture and make it more important than the ones from outside. Okay, now about the how we say it, this is a very big discrepancy in your textbook. Okay, I want to stress this out. Here, when you look at your textbook, there's a very big discrepancy. Your textbook will say that the shogunate was founded during the Nara and Heian period. Okay, but seriously, if you study Japanese history deeper, okay, the most that you can say is that the beginning of a somewhat shogun system began during Heian. Okay, you cannot say that the shogunate really began during the period of Heian, but we can say that the beginning of the shogun system started during Heian, because the real shoguns will only come much later during the Kamakura Bakufu. Okay, so what is important during the Heian, because you have the rise of this one family, the Fujiwara family. The Fujiwara family are very smart. So they will arrange marriages between their daughters and sons with the imperial family. They will dominate indirectly the imperial family. So in a way, they will become somewhat of a shogun, where the shoguns will be the military commanders, and then the emperors will then be restricted to ceremonial rule. The height of the Fujiwara will be this Fujiwara no Mina Michinaga, okay, where he will assume the title of a civil dictator. So what we see of the Fujiwara is the very beginnings of the shogunate in Japan. Okay, you cannot say it is the shogunate, but the beginning of the shogunate, because the emperor is still there, and the emperor are known as the cloistered emperors. That means behind the scenes, they are very ceremonial, but they are still important. Okay, another part that is important about the Heian period is the rise of the samurai. The samurai, or you can call them bushi, because bushido is the code of the samurai, so they are known as samurais or bushi. Okay, a samurai is a military class that will execute the will of the large landholders. So in this sense, they are generally enforcers of public order. They are military men employed by important families, by the feudal families. We can see that the samurai play a very important role in Japanese history. We can also see Samurai, the movie, with Tom Cruise, but that is another day, another time. Okay, so in terms of percentage-wise, the samurais were about 10% of total population. The samurai class were abolished in 1868, but today, if you look at major companies like Matsushita, Sumitomo, Sogo, all these companies, they were founded by descendants of the samurai people. So the descendants of the samurais remain very important politicians, corporate people until today. Why? Because the samurai has a code of conduct that allowed them to remain very disciplined. Okay, there are many ways to know about the samurai. Okay, we can know many things about the samurai. Okay, right, is that the samurai is always known as the military class. But if we look at their uniforms, okay, the military uniform of the samurai is actually more decorative than functional. In Malaysia, every year samurai is known as the samurai burger. Okay, so in Malaysia during about Chinese New Year time, don't forget samurai burger. Let's watch this short video clip first. So you would think that the samurai is a very military class, warriors, military men, and fighting. Men, military men. Okay, now this might change your perspective. Besides, when they were not fighting, when the samurais were not fighting, the samurais are gentlemen. They are gentle with other men, especially younger men. Okay, so samurais, most of you will never know or will have not known before until today that most of the samurais were LGBTs. So they had young boys that became their lovers. This is not only particular to Japan, but also happened in Greece during Sparta and even in the Macedonian Empire of Alexander the Great. So this will probably change your perspective on the history of medieval Japan. So let's stop for now first. Thank you very much.